In previous segments, I've raised but never addressed the questions, what are the limits of rights of autonomy, and where do obligations of respect for autonomy end? Today we'll look at these questions. In particular, whether the principle of respect for autonomy obligates health professionals to respect a refusal of a life-saving technology. I start with situations in which patients refuse a potentially life-saving treatment that, from the point of view of standards of good medical practice, they should receive. A good example is the refusal of a blood transfusion by members of Jehovah's Witnesses, a Christian denomination with some quite distinctive beliefs. One belief is that the Bible prohibits ingesting blood, and therefore blood transfusions are prohibited. Consider the case of a seriously injured 22-year-old member of Jehovah's Witnesses who has been in a dreadful car accident and was rushed by ambulance to a hospital, where physicians are urgently pressing for a transfusion necessary to save his life. The patient is aware of his situation, is capable of expressing his own views, but decides to refuse the transfusion. In this case, two critical moral rules are in conflict. The first rule is it's morally prohibited for a physician to risk death for a patient whose life-threatening condition can be medically managed by sound techniques. The second is the rule that it's morally prohibited to disrespect a first-party refusal of treatment. To handle conflicts between the obligation to treat and the obligation to respect a refusal, it is now almost universally accepted that the second rule, prohibiting disrespect for a refusal by a patient, must not be violated. Absent evidence that the patient is actually not autonomous, respect for autonomy is almost always the overriding moral consideration. Cases of Jehovah's Witnesses in particular, who refuse a blood transfusion, have become paradigmatic cases of a vital autonomy interest that must be respected. There is, however, a contrasting view that deserves a hearing. Consider a very paternalistic physician who adds up the benefits for and the potential risks of harm for this 22-year-old patient. In this physician's judgment, saving life has a far higher value than does conformity to the decision of a youthful man to let himself go untreated and die. This physician believes that a refusal should not triumph over a medical intervention that will save his life. Accordingly, the physician orders the transfusion and saves the man's life. When the CEO of his hospital asks this physician why he went forward with the transfusion, he turns the question around. What he asks is wrong with a doctor saving the life of a patient. It's not just the patient's autonomy, it's also my autonomy. And saving life is one of the deepest commitments of this hospital. This physician's comment is interesting because it pushes to the forefront the primary problem before us today. How far can health professionals go in overriding the autonomous decisions of patients? Has this physician clearly stepped over the limit of physician authority? And what would your moral judgment be of this physician? Is he to be morally commended or morally condemned? Many people have ready answers to these questions, but I am not convinced that the answers come all that easily.